chat about headstand. Now, I know that headstand is a pose that many of you would love to be able to do, and I'm here to show you some ways that we can come into it, a few alignment cues, and just a few little tips and tricks that you can use if you're working on your headstand. Now, what I really want to start by saying is that always just come back to the fact that headstand is just another asana. It does not make you better at yoga, because as we all know, yoga is about so much more than just being on this rectangle. It's the way in which we go out into the world when we conduct ourselves with both ourselves, our inner consciousness and our outer consciousness. And so when the ego sets in and tells us we have to be able to do a practice in order to, or to be able to do a pose in order to be a good yogi, just remember that. So always come back to, who am I doing this for? Now, on the flip side of that, inversions I find really fun and playful. They connect with my inner child, which is why I love to teach them. So every now and again, I will throw inversions, throw headstands into my practice. Now, what you're really going to have to do today is, if you're going to take on board some of these tips, then I really recommend that you self-assess. So you take this time to think to yourself, how am I feeling? You know, where is there fear creeping in? And things like that. And ultimately, do not do something that you don't feel comfortable with. So let's have a chat about how we set up for it. And we're talking about this interlaced variation rather than a tripod variation. So we take the hands over the elbows. And this is just a little indication as to where our elbows are going to go onto the mat. We release those hands, but the elbows stay as they are. Now, what's really important to remember is that we are all different. We're all made up differently. Our joints are all made up differently, and we're in different stages of mobility and flexibility. So it might be that when you come to lift up your bottom, your elbows flare out to the side. Let's just be mindful that the more the elbows flare out, the shorter our base is. So that's going to mean that we're going to be a lot more wobbly when we're upside down. If you can keep those elbows stacked underneath the shoulders, or at least as close to being under the shoulders as possible, not only are you going to be aligning and supporting that joint, but you're going to be giving yourself this beautiful equilateral triangle base, and you're going to find that you're not wobbling as much. So we take that interlace, and those elbows work as the pivot. Interlace the hands down on the mat, and the hairline of the head comes maybe about 3 inches or so in front of the hands, so that then when you tuck under the toes and lift the bottom, the crown of the head comes down, but the head's being supported by these hands at the back. And then we can walk these feet in, and we can just be here. This is a beautiful headstand. I'm in an inversion, my hips are above my heart, the option to bend one knee in, bend the other knee in, come down. Always take a moment, find a child's pose. So working with that setup, and even if you're not in a position to be taking the legs up into the sky, like I said, you can still work on being on the head in that way, but without throwing your legs up. And you know, we are always in life thinking about lengthening the spine. So we do need to bring our mind to this sense of compression, which is what we're doing in a headstand. So we don't want to be spending hours upon end in a headstand. They are beautiful, they're great fun, and there's something great to add into a practice. But 5 to 10 breaths, holding it there every so often in your practice is a really nice way. It's not something you want to overdo, because like I said, we don't want to be constantly putting loads of pressure on the head and therefore all the way through the neck and the spine. So talking about your setup from a flexibility point of view, if you've got someone there that can help you, they can stand at the side, they can hold your hips, you can tuck one knee in at a time, be sure not to kick up because you might kick them in the face. But if you're doing it on your own, then you are going to split the legs, because ultimately that is going to help as your counterweight, your counterbalance. And the more mobile, the more flexible you are in these hips, then of course the more leverage you're going to have here. So let's just watch that play out in my variation. So walk my feet in now, because I can lift this leg up. I can start to come up onto the toes of this right foot, and then I can use the counterweight to take my legs up in the sky. Now from here, I can bring my legs up to the straight position. Be mindful, if you're used to using the wall, you might find yourself in this shape here, which is more like a banana, which is really hard for me to do. I'm just going to come down. So if you are used to doing your headstand at the wall, you might find that you're in that shape without even realizing you're in that shape. So ask someone to take a look, or even use your camera to film your headstand, because to you what might feel straight might actually be these ribs flaring and slumping into the shoulders. So what we want to be looking at is activating the whole line of the body, pointing those toes, really squeezing into those glutes, softening through the rib cage so we're not flaring the rib cage. We're finding this length through the spine and really activating through the shoulders. And then hopefully over time, your straight line might not come straight away. It might take a while to work it into your body, to work it into your muscle memory. And then in time, you can start to play around with movement in your headstand, bringing it down. You could split the legs up, or if you're working into it a little bit deeper, you can start to work on hiking those legs the whole way up. And then when you get there, playing around with different shapes and seeing how that feels. Always coming down and taking a moment to just counter that inversion with a little narrow leg child's pose. It's a really great option. So I hope that you found this interesting. Hopefully there's a little takeaway that you can take. It might not be all of it. Maybe you knew a lot of that already, but hopefully there was something in there that resonated that you can use in your practice. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again for a little snippet again soon. Bye bye.